Good afternoon, everybody, on a chilly Wednesday. Basketball season is completely over in New Jersey. New York's wrapping up this weekend. A little knock on New Jersey for shortening the season. And like we said, we wanted to get all the sectional coaches on, and St. John Vianney won non-public A, South Jersey. So Coach Karpell is joining us. Thank you, Dawn, for joining us. And Doug, I'll let you go through some accolades.
All right. So we know you don't really like to talk about yourself and you'd rather talk about your girls, but we do want to congratulate you on a couple things this year. One is winning the Sullivan Award, which is presented by the local officials chapter for your contribution to the Shore Conference. The other is being named a Naismith Coaching Finalist, the national award. And the other one is where your 500th win this year. So congratulations on those three things, among others, but, we don't want to embarrass you.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So first, end of a run with this group of seniors. What was the final total of wins that they finished with?
Oh, Jesus. They're going to get mad at me. I think it got to 105.
Okay. That's what I so 105 and 3.
Yeah. And a COVID season on that.
Yeah. So you're probably adding another 15 wins there. You're right. 15. So what a run. Where, you've been coaching. Where does that, even not even your team, just things you've seen in the state, that 4 years, where do you rank that, as far as girls basketball in New Jersey?
Obviously there was a couple years where I wasn't in, but our group in the 90s, we had some crazy runs in the 90s. But as far as and I would say the Shabazz teams in the when I first came back in the early 2000s to the mid 2000s, they had some crazy runs. But as far as on a national level and being able to put it together and play the schedule that we played the last, obviously with COVID, but even the last 2 years, what we did and the schedule we played, these kids were challenged up and down across the country, in the state, regionally, and they answered and answered the bell pretty regularly when it came to that.
Yeah, I know, Doug, and we were trying to figure out when was the last time a team the state played the number one team in the country back-to-back years, and that's just a testament to the girls and the challenges that they were willing to accept. So
and just obviously also you got to have a little luck with those opportunities, but last year with Sidwell we actually got snowed out, and
I remember that
the girls really wanted to play that game, so we did everything we could to kind of get it scheduled, and then this year Long Island Lutheran's kind of one of those situations. We've done home and home with them since their previous coach was in. New coach, she took over. I was finished. The state of New Jersey was what a surprise. Started with you could only play this many games. Then they added that. So the next thing you know, we were up to 24 games. So some of those. So basically, short of it is I reached back out in the fall when I found out that we could add a couple more. So not knowing, she ended up with some kids transferring in, and we just were going to play that game. So I kind of I say it was luck, but that's just how that's how it broke. That's how it broke.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
You need some luck.
Yeah.
Every year, the so-called experts say that your team won't be as good as last year's team because of who you graduated. I'm just going to go back a couple of years since my daughter, your 18-19 team, your daughter Sarah, Bree Bellamy, Ramina Hendersons, Jada Bonner. 21, you had Emma Bruin, Katie Hill, and Sienna Bradley. 22, Cahalan, St. Rose, O'Connor. And then this year, Delaney, Bachman, Sofel, Kanich, Hubbard, and Brooks. Everybody says, your team can't be that good next year. You can't. So do you ignore that noise, or do you talk to the girls and use that as motivation?
I think the kids might use it more as motivation. I'm not really a coach that buys into outside noise at all. I'm more about like in our program, kids are coming to our program to be challenged. So I'm more from the like, let's embrace competition, let's embrace the challenges that are in front of us. And like you said, you lose kids or kids graduate and we kind of our next group in line, but that just goes to like the type of players that decide to come to St. John Vianney, that like they're all bought in on I call it the process, but they're all just bought in on like taking the steps. We don't skip steps. There's no skipping steps. Like in today's world, I give my senior class a lot of credit because that like we want that instant gratification, that instant result, that freshman of the year logo, but whatever it may be. And we don't. That's not what we're about, and it's more about the development. And we stay to ourselves. But the other piece is obviously that formula has been in place for a really long time at St. John Vianney. Like I played under that. So I don't have any other different expectations for our players when they come in. And so then the other part is like, it's just like next man up, like, hey, now it's our turn or whatever, and we just go and adjust to like what our personnel is each year as well. We don't go too far outside of the system, but we still adjust to like what the strengths of that particular group's personnel is bringing to the table.
It's funny you mentioned like instant gratification and this world of social media. So the age of instant gratification and stuff, how do you get girls to stay for 4 years? Some wait 2 and 3 years to get their opportunity. Some never really get a full-time opportunity. So how are you able to keep those kids around?
Well, first, like our school community is like really a great vibe. Like the school itself, the most of my girls really do love going to St. John Vianney and being part of the community there, and they immerse themselves, which I encourage them to do. So that's part of it. I guess I don't know why like they just stay around, but like they get results, they see their growth. And sometimes it might not always be like on the high school ranks, but they'll see it in the spring and the summer when they go back to their AAU clubs. And they're like, oh, not to badmouth AAU because it has a platform and need it. Like I'm not, but like, hey, coach, I'm so glad to be back here playing like at Vianney and playing like this, not the right way, but like everybody's held accountable. If you go outside of what is expected of you, you're gonna get called for it. And I just think kids do respect that, and they know that our coaching staff's gonna handle it. And ultimately that is a fun environment to play in when everybody is kind of on board with it. Yeah.
No, you keep going if you got. You
No,
kind of took
that
last question. That last question was part of what I was going to ask too. So that was a good question.
So I think we talked about this. It's easier for kids to buy in when there's a tangible at the end of the season or at the end of their career. So I agree with you. I mean, if you're winning as a senior 103 games and the next class comes in and say, wow, they won 103, let's try to win 104. There's always some sort of challenge for them to reach to beat the kids before them.
Right. No, and and that's that like again, it's not like anything we like overly discuss, but and the other piece, like obviously like with our schedule, there's a lot of great games. There's some like really not so great competitive games, but the other piece that I constantly am speaking to them about is like, we got 3 kids in the big dance. Like I want to turn on
awesome.
the TV. Yeah. Like I want to see you guys playing in college. I want to see you having like this awesome college experience, and just understand that like, this is a process, but like, we're going to prepare you as best we can so that like your college experience is going to be like tremendous as well. So that also is something that like we don't look at just like that quick result of like, hey, we beat so and so today, but like, are we getting better each day? Are you going to come out and be the best you can be? So when we send you to college, like you can play, you can contribute.
So for those that don't know, can you tell us the 3 girls that are playing in the big dance?
So yeah, We do. Super, like, I love the fact that Maddie St. Rose went to Princeton, because
Yep.
last Saturday I got down there for that crazy Ivy League championship. So that
Mhm.
was fun. Meg Cahallen is part of Holy Cross squad that just, kind of took care of business in the Patriot League. And she's played a little bit this year. She's had spot minutes, but she called me, we talked, and like, it's kind of like her freshman year at Vianney, she was behind all those kids you talked about,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she knows how that works and is part of like a winning team. And Sajada Bonner transferred over to Sacred Heart this year, and Sacred Heart pulled the NEC. That's my alma mater too, so they're out
Yeah.
nine.
Yeah.
So Sajada's playing, so that was so fun. And then so we'll get to see that. And tomorrow I'm heading up to Fordham. They made the WNAT. Sarah, my daughter, and Ashley O'Connor on that squad, and Katie Hill's Richmond Spider team also made the WNIT. So we actually, we have 3 in the NCAA and 6 playing in postseason, and that's super cool. Like,
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Really, really good stuff.
I could see, you being, as the former coach, how exciting that is, for you, and even coaches in other sports that get to see the kids that they coach succeed, go on to the next level, or even the next level after that. I just want to talk about your roster, your seniors that are graduating. With the year, the last few years, kids are leaving, going to different schools. Your school, you really don't lose people, and kids don't really transfer, and they want to be there from the get-go. I mean, Zoe is an exception, obviously, because it's a situation that happened with TCA. How did Zoe was able to fit in right away to the team? Because she came right in, and it just went right to work. There was no like learning curve or anything. She was just able to fit right in.
Yeah, and that's a tribute really to Zoe as a person. Like, you guys maybe got to talk to her a little bit, but
Yeah.
she really is like a fun kid, really good teammate. Like, when she came in as a junior, so funny, like the first 2 weeks, she wouldn't even step out on the court with the starters. Like, she just stood to the side, didn't want to like assume anything, like worked her way. And two, was learning what we were trying to get her to do, but also like was very conscious to not like want to like step on the toes of the kids that were already, she respected them like enough. And I think like that it seems like a little thing, but it's a big thing, and her classmates, the seniors now, they respect the heck out of Zoe. And then ultimately, after they worked and played with her, like, they just love her as a person, as a teammate, so.
Yeah.
And I think that was evident when you saw us play this year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she makes, first of all, you gotta have your head on a swivel when but she just makes everybody on the floor, better. And, she was so fun. She really opened my eyes last year with her passing and stuff. As soon as she got the ball, her head's up and she's looking, like thinking two moves in advance, which is phenomenal. Another scene I want to bring up, she really doesn't get the accolades she deserves, but Bree Delaney, it seemed like every big game, every tough opponent she would just hit like a big shot, or come up with a big stop or a big rebound at just the right time when your team needed it. You just talk about Bree a little bit?
Yeah, like I grew up coaching against, like, not grew up, Julia always played up, my daughter. So I coached Janie and Jules in little travel basketball, and Bree was on Marlboro, and they were like the nemesis. We always played against each other. So I've known her since 4th grade, like, just from that angle, and just her like work ethic and like buy-in and willingness to just grow herself and get outside of her comfort zone, because she was like, came into high school as a forward because that's how youth basketball works. And I'm like, if you're going to college, you're going to be a guard. You have to develop your shooting. You have to develop your range. You have to work on your handle. And, like, she was one of those kids, like, sophomore year, COVID year, we only had 14 games. And, I played the seniors a lot. And Bree and Ashley probably were kids that didn't get enough minutes. Like, I didn't have enough minutes. And, she came to me and she's like, coach. And I'm like, no, Bree, like, you are going to be a huge contributor here. Like, I know, like, you're working, I see your work. And, so even last year, she did an awesome job off the bench and just did what we asked her to do. And then this year, she kind of like was our defensive stopper differently than Ashley O'Connor, but like you always drew like the other team's best defense. And like, I wouldn't have said her freshman year, like that's what Bree would be doing for us when she was a senior, but she like figured it out and went out there and did that for us. And then ultimately just hit so many timely shots for us that like we all knew she could do it. But I was just super, as a coach, when they get to do that and prove it to everyone, like you just can't help but celebrate that for them.
Another girl that developed from the last year to this year was Ashley Silfakanich. And, people assume, when you're 6'3", you're just going to go in and dominate. And that wasn't the case for her first couple of years. And then this year, she played really well last year, but this year was just like a totally different player. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, Ashley's like super, like so athletic. And actually last year she like rolled her ankle. She was hurt a little bit last year. So like, we were so deep that didn't, but to be honest, like she didn't play against Sidwell last year. And I always tell people don't even realize that, like, she probably would have been helpful in the Sidwell game. But anyway, fast forward to this year, and she was probably like the best possible 6'3" kid in the state of New Jersey to play alongside Zoe Brooks, because she can get up and down the court, and she has the athleticism to be able to get herself. And it really was the first couple of weeks of the season, like Zoe's like, Ashley, you're getting in my way. You need to go here. You need to. So like, and you could see like by the time we got to January and Ashley figured out like, how to run that lane when Zoe's coming down and how to position herself. I mean, she reaped the rewards of that. And then honestly, like her growth on the defensive end, like we challenged her big time early in the year because we knew she was going to be like kind of one of those key players for us. So we challenged her because I was like, I don't want you blocking shots. I want you just to like be tall. And then ultimately she ended up blocking shots, but she stopped fouling and like got the timing down on how to block shots. And she made some really huge defensive plays for us. And, a lot of our defensive principles were based on the fact that, we had kids like her and Michaela Hubbard back there to send them into our side, and even Janie, send them into our length, like, go ahead.
So. Towards the end of the year when you lost Zoe for a couple of games, I could be wrong, but this is just an outside observation. I don't think anybody on your team took the stress of that more than Janie Bachman.
Yes.
In the short conference final, she struggled a little bit and got in foul trouble. In state final, she struggled and got in some foul trouble. So we all know she's a great player, but did she really try to take on that role of Zoe and kind of stress herself out, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, and honestly, like the full disclosure is she's also playing hurt. She had like a deep bone bruise, and like if we weren't unfortunately Bree Delaney was banged up too. So I think for Janie, like a little bit of that, a little bit, yes, there was a little bit I think of added pressure because Zoe was out, and also like she was a half a step behind where she usually is because she's playing on a bad ankle. So like you put that all together and like if we weren't like she's still in a boot. She's in a boot for 6 weeks at the end of the season because the lovely state decided to set things up that way for the kids, and,
Sure.
and they're trying to see it through, and they're running a therapy. We're setting practices up around therapy times just to get them out there, but Janie, again, another kid that just like got better each year in our program. And I personally did a lot with her because her and Julia have been buds since they're little. So, we drove all over the place to trainers and she worked on her ball handling, worked on her shooting, all those things to like really kind of get herself ready to go to Holy Cross and to like contribute the way she did for us the last couple of years.
Holy Cross has done a good job at recruiting in our area. So what's that?
Yeah.
Four?
Yeah.
Fourth to fourth. Like you got Mary, Megan, and Grace up there. So
yeah.
So and look at the success that they're having the season. So it says a lot. Doug, you can keep going if you want.
I mean, I really just have one more major question. And it's kind of like not basketball related, but kind of basketball related. So I've been watching your teams for a long time, and Nick and I remarked as we were sitting there during the state playoffs that some of these parents were so obnoxious and just like berating officials. Now, listen, you're a coach. I was a coach. We have problems with officials, and you try to tell them as quietly as possible. Sometimes it comes out loudly, but parents yell, "You suck!" I mean, worse things than that. And then kids on other teams shoot an air ball, and the parents are yelling "air ball." Like it's different if it's a student section. There's some rivalry there, but you have parents yelling at a 16-year-old kid "air ball," just stuff like that. So do you address that with parents before they come into your program? Because your parents are always so well-mannered. And I mean, I usually sit across the court, so you might hear stuff I don't, but usually they're well-mannered. You don't hear really crazy stuff out of them. So is that something you address before the kids come into the program, or is that something you address every year before the season starts?
We tend to address it every year, and I just kind of preach respect our opponents, respect the game, and respect each other. I kind of have a parent meeting. And for the most part, my parents yell out a little bit, but they're respectful because you know what, these kids, my parent, we have such a commitment level from my parents. I have kids that come in from really far, and they're fully committed to being in this program. So I think on a larger scale, if you look at it that way, parents understand what goes into getting to this level. And, you kind of just want to respect the kids that we're playing against, because they're working just as hard as our kids are out there on the court. So, I mean, it's not something that I address, and honestly, if you went to some of our games when we went to New York, you might think differently about my parents. Because they were all over when we went out of state, and the officials in some of those areas. But for the most part, there is a little bit of a respect factor. And even with the kids, they get on it, but I kind of, that's for me to handle, your job. You guys do what you need to. So we try to keep that all in perspective. And usually I handle the officials well enough that, my parents don't really have to say a lot.
Yeah, I'd say.
I just got a couple more to let you go. Madison, she really emerged in that short conference finals. And to me, you had good freshman class, Taylor. I know she was banged up at the end of the year. Charlotte. Do you think, kind of to me, it seemed like the short conference finals, that's when, start a little bit of the passing of the guard to your next group. Just, talk about the freshmen, and, I know Dinker, she's a sophomore, and, she could be dropped in with them. Just talk about, the excitement you have for this new group that's coming through.
Yeah, freshmen are always funny because, parents coming in and what do you think? And part of my answer to kids is to parents is it depends on how quickly they grasp our defensive system, and it's not hard to learn, and but so Madison had the offensive skill set from the beginning, had the offensive confidence, which is always key, especially at that age, right away. And she grew so much over the course of the year with her defensive side of the ball. And, obviously when we got to playoffs and we're down a player, we slid Alina into the starting spot, just kind of more because she's a little bit truer point guard, and then too, defensively, it just made our matchups easier. But I also loved having Maddie come in off the bench. And I always like to have a little bit of offensive presence coming in off the bench to give you a little bit of a boost. And so Maddie, just her confidence never lacks. She's a confident kid, a confident player. I love that about her. It's probably why she's at St. John Vianney, because I don't want to talk too much about that, but you're coming because you think you belong. You know what I mean? You're making that commitment because, and if you don't, then then we're probably not the place for you if you don't think you belong. So, and then I really loved the way Alina came along this year too, because last year, she was tiny and on this juggernaut of a team and got a little bit of run. This year, we were really on her really early in the season too, on like embracing being a point guard. Like, we don't need you scoring a ton of baskets. Pick your moments, but like, just use what's around you here. And she like developed, and I thought had some like really important minutes for us down that stretch at the end of the year as well.
Doug, you have any?
Yeah. So I know it's a sore subject, but we rumor that there may be some division realignment or something going on. And without speaking directly to it, what would you like to see happen next year?
So here, like, this is for me, and I've talked to a couple different people, and who knows what they're going to come up with, because it's kind of, how can I say, politically correct. There's some people that just are out of touch with like where even youth sports are, like your dad, we were just out like in AAU, we're out in travel soccer. Like we see how youth sports are set up, and then we come into, and we're still doing like a model from that I played under in the 1990s.
Right.
I think honestly, probably the best thing, because people don't want to be in a loaded division, because there's always going to be like that fifth place team that goes 0-10 that could be like top 20 in the state. Right. Like in the shore, like you could load a division up and you could put that. So to be honest, I think they would probably be better off to just have us play each other once, right? Play 10 games, have everybody put the best 10 or, distance, regional, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Play everybody once. So that way, like, you can kind of balance it out and people can go 7-3, and then there's still competitiveness in the middle to the bottom of the pack. And, and then the 10 games still gives us, the top tier teams, ability to still go out and schedule, the other top games. We don't want to be tied into 12 and 14 games in a terrible division.
Right.
So like if you go with 10 and even if, even 11 teams in a 10 games and everybody plays each other once, that's enough for seeding for sure conference tournament. It gives everybody a look at each other. You get some really good matchups. You put a little bit of juice back into the shore. Like, my Zoe Pure was my assistant. She graduated 2016, and she's like, when I played, we played RBC, we played Rumson, we played Manasquan, like that. Like, we had games that like were so fun. And I'm sitting at film 2 weeks ago, and my kids are like, we never played at St. Rose, we never played at Manasquan, we never played at Red Bank Catholic.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like the basketball powers that are, in the shore. Like, so why are those games not happening? And I it's not from my phone's not ringing, so we'll just leave it at that. But that's great.
My last question is going to be, great run for, state final game, obviously, the wrong end of that. What was your final message to your seniors, after that game in the locker room?
So listen, we were talking a little bit earlier about how, like, luck and sometimes things just have to break. And my heart broke just because we just were spent. They were physically spent, emotionally spent, mentally spent. And IHA played an unbelievable game. So all of the combination of all that stuff, not to put excuses out there, that was just the reality of it, and for high school kids to do what they did for those 4 years and to not ever have a slip up.
Yep.
Like that, just like you can't be mad. You can be upset and maybe disappointed, but you can't be, because like that, like they'll look back on it. So like, I just thank them for everything they gave to the program and for their commitment, to each other, because they were all playing hurt and banged up, and to the coaches and us, because we had an unbelievable ride. And I thought like you said the beginning of the year, I don't know if I would have pegged this team to be able to do what we did all year long. Like we just continue to get better. So like, that's the great thing as a coach. You just don't know how it's going to break, but it broke the right way this year.
Yep.
Doug, you got anything else?
No, just good luck to all the lady Lancers playing in the
Yeah.
NIT and NCAA tournaments. That's exciting, and we always appreciate your honesty, and we love when you come on, and
Yeah.
we love watching your team play because they play the right way. So just thank you from us for you always being accessible.
Yeah, no, and I love it. And thanks for the support, guys. Like, the girl, it really does mean a lot to the girls just to have, some people following them, people talking about them, doing this for the short community. It's really like nice to have. My husband and I we were listening to you guys do your short conference brackets, and it was entertaining just because, it's fun to hear that stuff. And you guys get to see, like, we don't, as a coach, I don't get to see like certain teams and certain matchups. So like just having some eyes on it and some voices to it is really appreciated by all the coaches, and from our family and community at Vianney. We thank you for that.
Thank you. I know, a lot of your parents do come up to us and thank you. And, me and Doug always appreciate that. But, it's a group, family, kids, it's a fun group you have there. So, well, we'll let you go. Get ready, have fun at the banquet. The girls deserved it. The girls definitely deserve a good party. So, but yeah, we'll definitely get you back on soon. We're working on some things, so I'll reach out. But thank you for joining us, and congratulations on a great season.
Awesome. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks for having me. Bye,
Take
guys.
care.
Thank you. All right, so we're still recording. So
no, listen, like I said, it's nice when the flagship program of the short conference that wins a lot, that has a coach that's accessible and honest, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and congrats to those seniors. What a great run, and she's going to get to watch them. Hopefully, have good success in college, and it has her bringing it up at like I said, any sport has to be fun. High school coach seeing their kids that played for them playing in the postseason in college.
Sure,
so.
Because the kids in high school, they get the trophies and everything, but really the grand prize for the coach is watching their kids play on TV. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So, all right. We'll get all short teams out there. Final top 10, and me and Doug will be working on some other podcasts. But hopefully we get that. I'll get that stuff up. They'll get that on the site hopefully by Friday. I hope I gotta finish doing the write-ups and stuff like that. But just top 10s, it's a little more challenging than I thought.
Well, and so's all short. That's not an easy task either.
No, great talent, a lot of great teams. So, but me and Doug are winding down, and then obviously we'll be talking basketball. And we definitely want to get some players on the podcast. From the start of AAU season and stuff like that. But yeah, I got to pull up the NCAA tournament schedule for girls, because the boys, I tried looking at a bracket and I couldn't figure out anything because I haven't paid attention at all.
Yeah, it's once they started switching around, instead of just all the teams in the Southeast, the South region, or the Midwest stay there, they have teams in the West region playing in Albany, and it's impossible to follow, but it's still the best time of the year. So
yes, this weekend's best weekend. So
yeah,
better than a Super Bowl.
A lot of people be calling out of work Thursday and Friday, so just the way it goes.
Yep. So, all right, guys. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that podcast, and we'll see you hopefully next week.
Take care.